Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Data here, and it is time to begin breaking down the second round of the 2024 NHL postseason. First, by analyzing the round that was back in round number one, and then moving forward to some predictions, some analysis, some first look kind of ideas, maybe some hot takes moving into round number two. So, thank you for joining me here this afternoon for a little bit of a live stream. Very busy week here between the start of the postseason, the start of the second round, which started yesterday afternoon, even though round one between the Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights didn't end until yesterday evening. Then the draft lottery tomorrow. So a lot going on at once. H. Dawes, as a Canucks fan, says that there's zero hope for the Canucks. We'll see. We'll break it down. I think the Canucks have more hope than they think. That injury to Thatcher Demko really changed what I thought about them. They were my Stanley Cup pick. I think my Stanley Cup favorites were the Panthers. My Stanley Cup pick was the Vancouver Canucks. I thought it would be a magical 1994 rematch. We'll get that all down in a second. Leafs fans said that, cried and then cried again. Oh, boy. The glorious Latvian king she loves has to do a lot of work there. All right, so if we look at the postseason, the round that was so far. Sorry, I started doing some Wikipedia thoughts there on the side. If we look at the bracket, hey, I went 8 for 8 in round number one. I only went 3 for 8 for the exact number of games for each round, but hey, I went 8 for 8 between the series. So at least I'm proud of myself for that. I only have ever gone 8 for 8 in a first round. It's always been like 7 for 8. Last year I was 7 for 8. I think it was just the Avalanche and the Kraken upset. It's not like these choices really surprised anybody. I think me choosing the Avalanche over the Jets was probably the closest one, but I wouldn't say there were any huge surprises here. Dallas, survived a little bit of a scare after they dropped games 1 and 2 at home. The Canucks survived a scare against the Predators, losing Thatcher Demko. But aside from that, no one really had a huge scare. Yeah, the Bruins as well. I thought it would be a 6-game series, but 8 for 8 wasn't the craziest 8 for 8 that you would see in a postseason history. But hey, I'm still proud of myself. Moving forward, we'll see the Stars and the Avalanche in round 2, and then as well as an all-Canadian matchup between the Canucks and the Oilers for the Western Conference. And in the East, it's a rematch between the Panthers and the Bruins. That could end up in being a rematch between Florida and Carolina, perhaps. But first, it'll be the Rangers and the Hurricanes to see who gets to the Eastern Conference final. I thought Vancouver might be able to take it this year, but without Thatcher Demko, things will really be different. Welcome, Mark. Welcome, Landon. Welcome, everyone, to the stream. Here, little, I was going to say Saturday, Monday afternoon. I know it's not the perfect timing. We'll be live later tonight. I didn't, unfortunately, just like I said, with the draft lottery and the postseason going, and on top of our own franchise modes and all that, it'll be tough to sit down, record, edit, upload. So I said, hey, let's do it live, and we'll see what the world has to think about it with you adding your live thoughts as we go. H. Jaws saying, I say I have no hope, but I still have some because, don't let their overall record fool you. Nashville is one of the hottest teams in hockey going into the playoffs, so us winning is possible. Yes, so actually, what's funny is the Predators were very hot in the last 20 games. But moving into the postseason itself, the Predators were 4-5-1 in their last 10. So they were the coldest team. But I obviously I see what you're saying with them. Their record, there were 16 wins out of 25. No, something crazy. 16-0-2 over the course of the spring. I forgot what it was, but they had a crazy record at one point. Anyways, so breaking down the series that were, let's start over in the Western Conference. May as well go through the order, starting with the one that ended last, the Stars and the Golden Knights. I had Dallas in 7. It wasn't exactly the type of 7-game series that you might thought it would be, with Vegas winning 2 on the road, then Dallas winning 2 on the road, and then here you go into Game 5 with it being a best of 3. So if we look at the series that was, I don't have all the scores of every game memorized, so apologies for that, but I think that's understandable. We'll start by looking at the score lines of these games. So the biggest surprise in the score lines, where's Dallas over here? Someone didn't put it on Wikipedia? Is that it? Hey, I expected it to be on Wikipedia. Someone's sleeping over here. So I'll pull it back up myself then, personally. So in game number 1, the big factor of this series, I think many thought was going to be Jake Ottinger between the pipes. Ottinger, who had a ridiculous goal saved above expected over the course of the season. He ended the year, 9-0-1 in the last 10 games of the season? Was that what it was? So in game 1 of the series, it was Vegas winning 4-3. Now, this was it. They scored 4 goals on 15 shots to begin that series in round one. So, game one, allowing 4 goals on 15 shots. Your biggest reason for why you would have confidence, Jake Ottinger gets not shredded apart, but he got, he showed himself to be human, and that was a big scare for Stars fans. They scored 3 on 29, and that was game one. You think, hey, let's shake it off, go into game two, but then in game two, still in Dallas at home, then they lose 3-1. This time 3 goals on 26 shots, but this time the only goal was the opener on the power play from Jason Robertson. They scored the opening goal 1-0, then they lose 3-1. So it was a very demoralizing time for the Stars. And if I had to make my bracket after 2 games, I would have said Vegas takes it absolutely. I did not think that Dallas was going to be able to get back from down 2-0, but they scrounge a 3-2 victory in game 3 in overtime, outshooting Vegas 46-34. The winner going to Wyatt Johnston. We'll get into him. He was a huge piece of that series. Then they win another game on the road 4-2. All right, we're back to 2-2. Game 3, another 1-goal game as the Stars won it thanks to Jason Robertson, power play goal again. Game 6, it was a 2-0 shutout by the Golden Knights. And then, of course, Game 7, as we know, yesterday evening, which was the 2-1 final going late. So a lot of very tight games. I think it was the series that we anticipated it to be in that way, but not necessarily Vegas wins 2, Dallas wins 2. That was a bit of a surprise in that sense. So if we go to the scoring in this series, of course, it was Wyatt Johnston really leading the way. He was so impressive, not just for what he does, but what he does as a rookie. Sometimes you get scared. Okay, they had in the regular season. Can it continue in the postseason? Yep, point per game, leading his team in goals. A team that did not have one of the 4 teams of the 16 teams in the NHL postseason, one of the 4 teams without a point per game scorer, the Dallas Stars, and Wyatt Johnston goes point per game, exactly what they needed. Now, at the same time, I'm not going to live and die by plus minus like Slim does, but Heiskanen at -6 and Robertson at -5 was not ideal to see from 2 guys who were eating so much ice time. Yeah, Slim's not in here just yet. Sorry, I should say, Wyatt's second year, but how many games did he play last season? I know it was not his rookie year, but I should say, like his first full season. Am I not right in saying that? My apologies. But Miro Heiskanen, Jason Robertson, 5 points apiece. And after that, it really goes down. So it goes to show how tight these 2-1 games were, 3-2 games were. After your top 3 scorers, 1 point per game, 2 players with 5 and 7. After that, no one on the entire team had more than 3 points in 7 games, which kind of goes hand in hand with what Dallas was doing over the course of the year. They didn't have anyone who was point per game or anything like that. He played all 82 both years. You know what then? My apologies. Sometimes make a mistake. I made a mistake right there. My apologies. Wyatt Johnston's second full season. That's my bad. Thank you for catching that one, Landon. So it's to have such low scoring, then you got to say, yes, Jake Ottinger did come through in the end. He was shakier than you thought he might be. Sorry, goalies are in a separate tab here. He was shakier than you thought he might be, but the defense was solid enough. The overall effort was solid enough. They were clinical against a good tandem in Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson, both above 920 save percentage, both like 2 goals against average. But Jake Ottinger with his 925 save percentage and sub 2 goals against average, that went a very long way. In the end, he only saved 2 goals above expected. Maybe I need to refresh that. I'm not sure if yeah, there you go. I think it's at 6 games there. If we look at the stats here, 2.5. So there you go. In the end, 2.5. It's still a lot for 7 games, but it's not like he did anything that was in Jeremy Swayman numbers here for goals saved above expected. So 2.5 goals, 2.5 goals saved above expected is very important. And you know what? In such a tight series, that's the difference maker. So as much as Jake Ottinger may have made you a little afraid at times, Jake Ottinger was the difference maker in many ways. The biggest difference maker has to be Wyatt Johnston, but I think second place, a close even second place, is Jake Ottinger. So all that to say, it was a good series from Dallas. They were clinical when they had to be, but they definitely pushed it a little further than they had to, I think. Vegas had a good series, 7 points in 7 games from Jack Eichel. I think that was a quiet 7 points. I found that I didn't, as much as I watched the games, the West Coast games as much as I can, I feel like Jack Eichel wasn't... he didn't sound like a point per game player. He was getting in a lot of those corners. He was doing a lot, but I don't feel like he was scoring as much as not to make a critique on his scoring. Just a personal thing of you thought you would have heard his name a little bit more. I saw him a lot, but I didn't hear him a lot. You catch a little nuance what I'm saying. I saw him all over the ice, but I feel as though I didn't hear him as much as I would have wanted to hear his name be called. Does that make sense? Or am I just kind of going in circles there? But he did look good overall in the series. He looked good. I saw him getting all over the ice. Noah Hannafin, 5 points, great acquisition. Braden McNabb was a big surprise with 5 points, but you need your stars to be your stars, and that's where Vegas didn't always have that. 1 goal, -6 from Tomas Hertl. Yes, he was injured. Yes, he was coming into a new system, but what's Chandler Stevenson's excuse for 1 assist and -3 through 7 games, right? Guys like that. Going down the list, Anthony Matt, that only played in 3 games, -1. You're not looking for a ton of goal scoring from your defense and stuff like that, so I'm not going to critique on them as much. But you need your goal scorers, you need your stars to be your stars, especially in a year where you had multiple players who were not. It was a point. Only Eichel was point per game, but a lot of them who were hovering on that point. Yeah, Stone 53 and 56, Carlson 60 and 70, Eichel 68 and 63. So Eichel came through for you. McNabb was a great surprise. Welcome, Mighty Joe. But you got to say, Hannafin and McNabb were, if it wasn't for those 2 surprises, it would have been an even more difficult series for Vegas. So I'm not going to call it a fraudulent Game 7, but I do think they got a little bit lucky with Dallas having a bit of a struggle in terms of their finishing. And if Dallas didn't have Johnson scoring their goals and Ottinger making so many saves, to have lost to this team, 3 points in 7 games from Stone, 2 points in 7 games from Carlson, 1 point from Hertl, 1 point from Stevenson, to lose to that team, yeah, they're Vegas. Yeah, they're defending Stanley Cup champs, but yeah, I wasn't super impressed with Vegas's performance. Dallas had its own struggles, but I think Dallas was the right team to come out of this series. So sorry if that was a bit of a longer breakdown. I should probably go a little bit more quickly, but Dallas came through as I thought they would, and they're on to round number 2 to face the Colorado Avalanche. Now, this was a huge disappointment for the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets, another team that didn't have a ton of those big scores, but they were a team that was so well balanced and did so much well as one to be the 4th ranked team, and they were the hottest team coming into the playoffs, 8-2-0 on an 8-game win streak. Again, not to harp on plus minus, but when you look at your top guys in 5 games being -6, -4, -5, those are ugly numbers for such a small sample size. Ugly numbers. Scheifele 6 points, that's great. Connor 5 points, that's great. Morrissey, Velarde, they did what they had to do. The goal scoring was there, especially when Georgiev was allowing as much as he did. It's hard to really put it all on the goal scoring not being there. It's more Connor Hellebuyck. As much as he was playing some of the best hockey and making so many saves, the defense had to limit those opportunities. To look at the Avalanche against who you would think would be the Vezina Trophy winner, the Winnipeg Jets coming into the series allowed 0.66 goals against per game less than the Colorado Avalanche. That was supposed to be their huge advantage. You know what? It was their biggest disadvantage. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 point per game plus players from the Avalanche. A lot of quiet performances. Casey Middlestat, I didn't know he had 6 points before I started looking it up. Nichushkin, of course, 7 goals, was a beast. But guys like that, you need those guys like Casey Middlestat to be quietly putting up those assists and eating those minutes, 15 and a half minutes. Those are not small minutes. So the Avalanche took apart the Jets, and you got to give them props for doing it in the way that they did. Goals saved above expected. It's crazy to think that Connor Hellebuyck allowed 5 goals above expected. And even then, what was his exact save percentage? Like, I know it wasn't super pretty, but you would think that it would be ugly for having the worst of the first round. If we look at goalies in round number 1 and go to Winnipeg, like I said, it won't be super pretty, but you would think it would be worse. Hellebuyck, 870 save percentage. That's not pretty. But when you think that it's more the goals against average, that's ugly. But an 870 save percentage, when you have 5 goals scored above expected in such a small sample size, 5 goals above in 5 games, and to only have an 870 isn't pretty, but you would think, is this guy like 760? Is this guy 810? No, he's 870, but he allowed 5 goals above expected. So it goes to show how the Vegas Golden Knights, how the Winnipeg Jets allowed so many shots per game. I'm not sure what the average number of shots per game was. They allowed so many shots per game, and they turned it into a barn burner night in, night out. 7-6, 5-2, 6-2, 5-1, 6-3. The winning team had 5 goals or more in every game. You would have thought maybe that could happen for Winnipeg with Georgiev being who he was, allowing 7 goals in game 1. But to say that, you're facing 40 shots plus shots per game. Yeah, Hellebuyck is doing as much. Maybe he could have done more, but Hellebuyck was doing all right. When you're facing 40 plus shots per night, you can't be, you got to be scoring more. You got to score more than one or two. Winnipeg scoring two, scoring one, scoring two. All of Winnipeg's losses came when they scored two, two, one, three, and all Colorado's wins came when they scored 5, 6, 5, 6. So there you go. You got to get more. You got to have stronger defense, limiting those shots, and you got to, as much as the offense did okay, if your defense is gonna allow that much, it has to light that fire that much more under your forwards to get it done. So Nichushkin was a monster. All those players, point per game plus was incredible. Winnipeg did okay in their scoring, but they allowed so many shots. It's, Colorado picked them apart. I found they picked them apart, and it wasn't as close of a series as you would have thought it would have been. So lowest goals in the score, lowest goals in the entire series was a 4-goal game. So that was a surprise. Colorado's through as I thought they would. I think, according to my bracket originally, that Colorado takes down Dallas in round 2, but we're going to break that down a little further in a moment. Georgiev is going to have to be a bit more solid in there. Now, on to Winnipeg and, now I kept saying Vegas, I'm going to say Winnipeg. On to Vancouver and Nashville. This was a surprise. Like I said, Nashville coming into the postseason, they were 4-5-1 in their last 10 coming into the postseason. I thought that they would just run out of gas, basically. They did as much as they could to get to that point. Now, the tank was empty, and Vancouver was going to take advantage of that. But without Thatcher Demko beyond game 1, he only played game 1, correct? I don't think he played any parts of games 2. Sorry, right here. In game 3, so I believe it was just after game 1. So Vancouver wins game 1 with Thatcher Demko in there 4-2. That's great. But then you lose 4-1. You win a tight 2-1 game. You win a tight 4-3 overtime game. You lose 2-1. You win 1-0. This series was way closer than you would have thought it would have been. 2-goal game with an empty netter. 3-goal game, I think that was with 1 or 2 empty netters. 1-goal game, 1-goal game, 1-goal game, 1-goal game. So from games 3 to 6, the last 4 games of the series decided by 1 goal. 3 of those 4, right? 1, 2, going to the Vancouver Canucks. So Vancouver got a little lucky in this series because things could have gone very, very differently, especially in that 4-3 overtime game when they were down 3-2 and Colton's, or 3-1 even, was it? And then Colton Sissons hits the post. Brock Besser helps to tie up the game, and then the hat trick sends it to overtime, and then in overtime it's Elias Lindholm who wins it. So to say that the Vancouver Canucks are through, things could have gone very differently. If Colton Sissons scored that empty netter and it's a 2-2 series and this one has to go to 7 for Vancouver to make it through, things would have looked very, very differently. So I don't know if it's luck, it's just that they waited a bit too long to get things going. They had to find their footing a little late, perhaps. That surprise from Thatcher Demko was not welcome. In the end, Brock Besser scores 1 goal in 5 games and a hat trick in another, giving him 4 goals in 6 games to help lead. Point per game with JT Miller. Quinn Hughes was good. Dakota Joshua is a monster. Zadorov, Lindholm, okay, but you need EP40 to be scoring some goals. You need Connor Garland to be scoring some goals. Who else is out here? These guys at the bottom are not always going to be your big points guys, but it wouldn't hurt to see a little something from Niels Hoaglander once in a while. It wouldn't hurt to see a little something from a little Teddy Bluger depth once in a while. If it has to be only the top guys, we see that wasn't always enough. 3 points from Lindholm, 3 points from Pettersson. That's, 3 and 6 is not crazy, but when you think about it, that's a 41-point pace over an 82-game season. Colton Sissons, yeah. So you would need more from those guys over the long run, right? Goaltending wise, it was a little dicey. King Arthurs Silovs. Is it Arturs Shilovs? Is it with an SH? But Shilovs, he did his job in the end. He got the only goalie to get 2 wins for Vancouver. 938 save percentage, 1.7 goals against. That's true because Demko saw just 1 game. Yeah, exactly, 1 start. Casey DeSmith was okay in the end. A 911 save percentage and 2.02 goals against average. That's okay. That's actually not that bad. But when you look at how the scoring wasn't quite being lethal enough, you need your goalie to stand on his head and you need that 938 save percentage. That's the thing. So can Vancouver continue to get that? I don't know. I don't know if you can continue to ask for that from Shilovs, especially against such a high octane offense as Edmonton. For the Nashville Predators, they're lucky that no one scored more than a goal aside from Philip Forsberg in 6 games. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 single goal scorers. The Latvian Larson is going to stone McDavid. We'll see. grand larceny. So that was a bit of Nashville's undoing. They had offense spread throughout, but not a lot from anyone in particular. 2 points from O'Reilly. You got who's here at the bottom? Who am I trying to think of? Whose name is escaping me right now? Luke Evangelista, good rookie season, only 1 goal in 6 games. You got to hope for a little bit more from those guys. You pick up Jason Zucker at the deadline. He gets you 3 points. That's good. Nyquist had like, what, 70-point season, 4 points. That's good. Philip Forsberg led the way. So another instance of where it wasn't so much Vancouver beating the team, it was more the team that the Predators kind of beat themselves in the same way that the Jets beat themselves. Excuse me, in the way that the Golden Knights beat themselves. Dallas would have had a lot more trouble against a better Vegas team, and Vancouver would have had a lot more trouble against a better Predators team. So the voodoo magic between the pipes was definitely helpful for Vancouver, but how long will that last? That'll be the question, right? Completely unrelated. O'Reilly went to my high school. No, hey, that's cool. H. Johns. ROR. What a guy. Between the pipes for the Nashville Predators, Jussi Saros did his job at a .900 save percentage, 2.02 goals against average, allowing 2 goals per game. That's all you can ask for from your goalie, really, I think. That's all you can really ask for from your goalie. He saved 3.5 goals above expected. Crazy that Shilov's allowed saved 2.8 goals above expected in just 3 games. So Shilov's looked really, really good for a lot of different reasons. Casey DeSmith just at negative 0.02, so you can't really fault him much there. Donovan, welcome to the stream, buddy. It was really more Shilov standing on his head because Saros did his job. It could have been worse for the Predators, and they could have had this series as well. So that's another tight one. The Predators are gone. The Canucks are through in a series that could have been a lot tighter. I thought it was going to be a sweep. Thatcher Demko being there probably wouldn't have made the difference because Shilov's did just as well save percentage wise. I don't think Demko would have made that much of a difference in terms of would Demko's numbers have been that much better than Shilov's numbers in the end? I don't know. It was more the offense on both sides that were saying, do you want it? Do you want it? I don't know. You go ahead. And we're on to the second round for Vancouver. It will be an all-Canadian matchup against the Oilers, who are through for the 3rd straight year against the LA Kings. I thought it would be a 6-game series. It was a 5-game series. Again, the Kings could have made it a much harder series. The offense from Edmonton was just that much stronger. It wasn't anything in the sense of, okay, they shut down the first line. It comes down to the depth. No, the first line was the first line. The stars were the stars. McDavid had, 12 points in 5 games. Draisaitl, 10 points in 5 games. Like the stars were the stars. Evan Bouchard, Zach Hyman, all the scoring came from Colorado and Edmonton in the first round. So if we look at the skaters in round number 1 in Edmonton and how they had great success against the LA Kings. As I said in my original breakdown, the LA Kings had good but very inconsistent goaltending, and that was their undoing in the end. Part of their undoing, I should say. 12 points from McDavid, more than 2 points per game. Draisaitl, more than 2 points per game. 5 goals, 5 assists. Zach Hyman, 7 goals. What a beast. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point per game plus players. Evander Kane, nothing special, starts to go down a little bit. But as long as you have those top guys doing those top things, it's not a huge deal. Do you want to see a goal once in a while from a Corey Perry, a little depth goal while he's playing 12 minutes a night? Sure, that would be nice. But as long as you have those top guys doing those top things, it's not as noticeable if you don't get it. If a team were to be able to say, we found a way to crack McDavid or Draisaitl in this series with this one defenseman shutting him down, it's just Quinn Hughes or it's Tyler Myers. I don't know what it is. I don't want to put too much pressure on Tyler Myers, but if they can find one guy to shut one of those players down, that could, kind of deviate some offense to other sources who aren't finishing with such a lethal touch, you could say. Like if I go to the Edmonton Oilers and I think, okay, some of these players aren't scoring, they're scoring below expected goals. If I look at the negatives here, expected goals, Dylan Holloway only had 0.2, so he's scoring way above expected. If he's expected to do more of that, might he have struggles? If Evander Kane's scoring at that pace, 2 expected goals, scores twice, could we afford to let him do that as long as we're shutting down McDavid? That could be a question for the Vancouver Canucks. But that being said, Edmonton, incredible offense. The goaltending in Edmonton, left some to be desired, but Stuart Skinner did his job. If we look at the round that was, some big scoring games, again, 7-4, 5-4, 6-1, 1-0, and 4-3. So every winning team scored 4 goals or more aside from game 4, where it was a 1-0 shutout from Stuart Skinner, who that would definitely put on his best performance in that game. You got to say that was his best performance. So if you look at, sorry, I just want to see Edmonton Oilers. Stuart Skinner, with his 1 shutout, that definitely boosted his numbers as he ended with a .910 save percentage. Wasn't super pretty, 2.59 goals against. If you look a little more closely at the goal saved above expected, it wasn't anything crazy. 0.2 goals saved above expected. It wasn't Stuart Skinner who was the true difference maker, aside from being I would think, the biggest factor in Game 4 when the Oilers shut out the Kings 1-0. When you think about the Kings goaltending, you got to scroll down a little bit more. Talbot and Riddick, both in that same area, 0.2 and 0.1 goals saved above expected, respectively. Neither did anything super special in my mind. Both of them had great moments throughout the season, but as I said, great inconsistent moments. Both ended below an .875 save percentage. Yes, Riddick with the 2.56 goals against, but it's crazy to think that these guys had solid seasons, but as I said, I wasn't convinced by them, and there you go. .861, .872 save percentages. And it's not just the Oilers carving them up. It's been a trend throughout the entire season. So that ended up, I think that was ultimately the Kings' undoing. The offense wasn't horrible, as we just saw. They were able to break through Stuart Skinner, but their goaltending was getting broken through a lot more. Like PLD was a huge one. Pierre Dubois struggling is going to go into it. Kempe, 4 goals, 5 points. That's great. Byfield 4. It's, it definitely drops off a little. 3 points in 5 games. You can't say that's the end of the world. 3 and 6 is where it starts to get a bit more dicey. 3 and 5 is not the end of the world, and you had a bunch of players who did that. Arvidsson, Kopitar, etc. Fiala, 1 goal, 2 points was definitely a surprise there. Trevor Moore, what a great season he had. Only 1 goal, 1 point. Pierre-Luc Dubois, invisible, 1 goal, 1 point. Philippe Danault, legend, 1 assist from him. So could the offense have been better? Absolutely. But even then, the Oilers were scoring so much. I don't know. When the Kings lost 6-1, add 3 more goals, not enough. When the Kings lost 7-4, add a couple more goals, still not enough. In the tight 1-0, 4-3 games, that could have been the difference. So the Kings, it's not like I'm trying to say that they had no chance. The Kings could have been in this series a lot more than they were. But ultimately, things didn't come together in a few different areas, and the Oilers are going to say, no problem, thank you very much. We'll take it from here. So there are some of the numbers when you look at the Kings and Oilers between that series. So now we move on to the next round being against the Vancouver Canucks. So that's the Western Conference that was. I'm 4 for 4 in the West. We'll see how I do in the East. I think the series although there have been some surprises, they've gone mostly according to how you would think. Now, over in the Eastern Conference, Florida and Tampa. I thought this series was going to be a lot closer, honestly, just mostly to do with the history that these two teams know each other so well, that Tampa has so much postseason experience. Postseason Vasi is going to come in here, and as great as Florida is, and I think they're going to win, I think it'll be a bit of a tight 4-3 series in the end. But no, the Lightning were close to being swept out of this one. Well, figuratively. Where am I going? Oh, no, sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong series. They didn't win game 1. So, yeah, they were close getting swept out of this one. Tight games, 3-2, 3-2 overtime, 5-3. But as tight as those games were, I felt, maybe it's just me, I felt as though the Panthers dominated most of each game. Was it game 1? It was game 1 or game 2 where the Lightning outshot the Panthers by a ton. And I feel like after that, the Panthers never took their foot off the gas again. 3-2, 3-2 back-to-back, 5-3 with an empty netter, I believe. Big 6-3 loss, but they answer that with an even bigger 6-1 win, and they take the series in 5 games. So I think the Panthers are, I think at this moment, I think they are the team to beat. I think it's Panthers and Avalanche right now, if I have to give my 2 favorites, and potentially my Stanley Cup final. But I'm still going to stick with my prediction for now. Why not? I don't think Vancouver's going to win Stanley Cup without more stability between the pipes and more consistency from their forwards. But if I'd say just philosophically and fundamentally and organizationally, which 2 teams are the best in the East and the West right now, I think it's Florida and Colorado. As great as Edmonton is, I do think it's Florida and Colorado. So sorry, moving back to Florida in their series. The Panthers had great scoring. The goal scoring continued from their regular season pace. Verhaeghe, Reinhart, they kept it going. Matthew Tkachuk, both Verhaeghe and Tkachuk with 9 points in 5 games. Barkov point per game. Lundell, 4 assists from the young centerman. Gustav Forsling with 4 assists. Sam Reinhart with 3 goals. They'll take that. Montour and Tarasenko with 3 points as well. And that allows these guys who are playing 11, 12 minutes per night. That allows your Evan Rodriguez and your Sam Bennett, who had 2 goals and 2 points in 2 games. That allows them to kind of do their thing and play their role a little bit more, as opposed to, the top guys aren't getting it done, we got to take more risks and try to get that goal. No, they can be those grindy third lines, that checking line, that hard line to play against that can burn you if you leave them in the wrong spot. That allows them that freedom to do it, and that's what they did against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the Panthers had incredible scoring, not to be forgotten is incredible goaltending as well. As much as the offense kind of did away with a lot of the fears, the goaltending here in Florida was very, very solid as well from Sergei Bobrovsky. As much as an .896 save percentage doesn't look pretty, if you look at the numbers a little bit more closely, he saved 1.4 goals above expected. He did his job and then some. So it's not like he had like a 900 plus, but he was around like 0.1, 0.2 goals saved above expected. Yes, he's in the 800s, but don't let that 800s whatever fool you. He saved 1.4 goals above expected. Of save percentage on unblocked shots, how did he look here? I'm just looking a bit deeper at the numbers. 955 save percentage on unblocked shots. What's the difference between this? Oh, expected save percentage. Sorry. I don't want to go too deep into that, though. But just to say, Sergei Bobrovsky was, as much as you might think 896 is not that great, he was a huge factor in this series. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Andrei Vasilevskiy, 897 save percentage, technically better, but if we scroll down here, okay, I'll give it to him. 1.3 goals saved above expected. It was more the consistency. If Bobrovsky allows 2, 3, 6, then 1, I'd rather have that than 3, 3, 5, 3, 6. I'd rather have that. So you look at the goals against average and the consistency in that. I'd rather have Bobrovsky and his 890 whatever than Vasilevsky's 897. Vasilevsky wasn't the biggest factor in Tampa Bay losing, but he definitely didn't contribute by not being at his best. The Lightning scoring was okay for the most part, but that plus minus was ugly for a lot of these guys. Hedman, Kucherov, Stamkos, Hagel, Point, all point per game plus. A losing team with 5 point per game plus players. After that, it drops off dramatically. 2 points from Paul, 2 points from Chiarelli with a -6. Ugly, ugly numbers there, especially for a guy playing 18 and a half minutes per night, someone who has more of that defensive edge to things. That was tough. When you look down the list here, you want to get some depth scoring from these guys who are playing more minutes, but I don't know, you need a little something from Esimont. That would have been nice. Duclair, 2 assists. Would have liked a goal or 2 from him. Sergei coming back was great, but how effective was him coming off of injury? So the scoring was there. The goaltending was okay, but the Panthers was just that much better. This Lightning team against the Bruins, against the Leafs, against, I don't know about the Caps or the Rangers, against the Islanders, this Lightning team could be a second round team against a different opponent. But against the Panthers, I don't think it was going to happen. And what I thought came to be, just even in a little more obvious of a sense, as they did it in 5 as opposed to doing it in 7, Florida. So the Lightning out. What's going to happen there? Stamkos contract, a lot to think about moving forward. Those are my thoughts on that series. I think Florida just did too much well. And the Lightning, as good as they were for the most part, and they could have been a second round team against a lot of different opponents, they ran into Florida, and that was too bad. In the end, if it was Boston, Florida, and Tampa, Toronto, I wonder what would have happened there. But speaking of Toronto, we move on to the next series, the Bruins and the Maple Leafs. What a nail-biting series this was, going to 7. I thought it would go to 6. I wasn't convinced by this Maple Leafs team, as was obviously shown by them going down 3-1, but they battled back. Joseph Woll was a huge difference in that. Boston, they look tired out there. I know it's part of it being a 7-game series, but as much as you want to say slap anybody on Pasternak's line or slap anybody with Marchand, I think having so much reliance on some of these guys who would be middle 6 forwards elsewhere is going to come back to bite them. We saw that a little bit when we look at how much responsibility, if we look at ice time and we look at just at forwards, yes, we look at the forwards ice times here in Boston, a lot of minutes, 3rd most ice time of the forwards going to Zacha, to Coyle, looking at sixth most to Morgan Geekie, seventh most to Danton Heinen. On other teams like Tampa Bay, guys down here, 17, 18, those are your Anthony Chiarellis, those are your second line centers, those are your like solid second line centers, your 50-point wingers, your 50, 60-point wingers. And yes, as good as Coyle and Geekie and Zacha have been, I don't mean to speak ill of them. I just don't know if you can rely on them for so many minutes over the course of a Stanley Cup run. Like, that scares me a little bit. Pastrnak, yes. Marchand, yes, even though he's getting a bit older. But to have so much reliance on Zacha, on Coyle, on Geekie, on Heinen, I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. Is that my own bias because I'm not giving them enough credit? Maybe. And that's where you can call me out on that. But I feel as though there's something to be said about the point that I'm making here. So 8 points in 7 games from Brad Marchand. That was great. After that, no one else point per game or point per game plus. DeBrusk and Pastrnak both with 5. Pastrnak definitely has to step up a little bit here. What's his shooting percentage? 13%. Not horrible. He's got to be putting more pucks on net. McAvoy was a mule out there, playing 26.51 per night. Hampus Lindholm, Morgan Geekie, Frederick, all the points on there. Plus minus are okay. You know, when you got Charlie Coyle playing 18-19 per night and he gets only 2 points, Zacha 18-37, only 2 points. Give them the ice time for sure if they're at that. You know, it's not like they have many other options, but if they were eating that ice time and delivering, I'd say, okay, it's my own bias. But to say they're third, fourth in ice time and only scoring 2 points and no goals in 7 games, I think I'm onto something here. I gotta admit. Brazeau was a great addition to the lineup for the Bruins. So yeah, the scoring wasn't incredible. Part of that goes into how strong Joseph Woll's play was. If we look at the goaltending in this series, first we'll start with Boston. Of course, Jeremy Swayman ended up taking the reins in this one, and I would say he was the biggest reason why Boston is through. 950 save percentage, and of course, 10.9 goals saved above expected in 7 games played. That is a ridiculous number, almost more than 10, that would be 10 points. Yeah, so more than double that of Shesterkin in 5 games, and more than double of that of Thompson in 4 games, and more than triple than Saros in the same amount of games. So 10.9 goals saved above expected. The Maple Leafs had the horses. They had the team to go through. And it's not, I don't believe in the curses of this and that. The Leafs had a team to go through. At the start of the series, I said Boston is coming into the series a lot stronger. They are, let me see here. They were 47, 20, and 15 coming in. They had almost a half goal against less per game. I thought goaltending would be the difference, and that's ultimately what it was because the Leafs scoring was there. Let me just look at the goaltending before we move on. But Joseph Woll was such a difference maker. 964 save percentage, 0.86 goals against average, playing almost 140 minutes through 3 appearances, 2 starts, 0.86 goals against average, 2 goals against on 56 shots through those 3 appearances. Samsonov wasn't horrible. Again, people want to rag on Samsonov. He wasn't horrible. If you look down here, like -8 goals saved, so allowing 0.8 goals above expected, that's not good, but it doesn't sink your team. Allowing less than a goal above than you should over the course of 5 games should not sink your team. He wasn't great, but that shouldn't be enough to sink your team. Meanwhile, Joseph Woll saves 4.3 goals above expected, but Swayman just saved 6.3 more than him, right? But the scoring was there for Toronto for the most part. At least it was spread throughout. As much as you would expect when you're playing against such a strong goaltender and doing what Jeremy Swayman was doing. If you look at this a little more closely. So Austin Matthews wasn't great, 4 points in 5 games. It was more the goal scoring. People were upset about the goal scoring. But when you think about it, 4 points in 5 games, it's not the end of the world. What I'm more concerned with, 3 goals in 4 games from Nylander, that's great. What I'm more concerned with is 1 goal, 3 points from Mitch Marner, 1 goal, 2 points from John Tavares. That's what I'm more concerned with. Because Nylander had 3 and 4. 1 was a deflection, sure. Matthews, 4 points in 5 games. That's all right. So when you look at the point totals, 4 and 7, 4 and 7, not great. When you think 3 and 4 and spread throughout at the top, it was kind of as good as you would No, you know what? I take that back. It wasn't as good as you would expect. It was as good as you would expect if you knew Swayman was going to be playing like that. But coming into the series, you did not know that. You got to be able to get down within yourself, a little sports psychology here or something. You got to find a way. You have to find a way. And it's easy for me to say here behind the microphone, but when you're a 69 goal scorer, or when you're a team that has so much money dedicated to the offense, you gotta find a way. Not just philosophically, literally. When you're such a team that has, when your team has so much money dedicated to offense, you gotta find a way. You are obligated to find a way. When you scroll down the list here, depth scoring wasn't really there. Depth, like top six, like scoring from like your Max Bertuzzi's of the world, or this Max Bertuzzi, your Max Domi's of the world, 4-7, 4-7. That wasn't maybe as expected. It's potentially for their role, playing under 17 minutes, whatever. You thought the big guns would be who they are. In the end, you needed a bit more from these lower guys. You needed to get a point here and there from a Holmberg, from a Robertson, from a Connor Dewar. It would have gone a long way. But really, I don't mean to harp on the depth. It's John Tavares, 2 points in 7 games. Mitch Marner, 3 points in 7 games. Is it just you're running into a hot goalie? Yes, but I don't know how much of an excuse you can use that as. Did you run into a hot goalie? Yes. Did you run into a goalie who has the highest goal saved above expected in round 1? Yes. Did you run into a team that has historically beaten you so much, game 7, blah, blah, blah? Yes. But when your team has so much money dedicated, and so many years of development dedicated to this, I don't mean to go on a big soapbox for the Maple Leafs here, you need to find a way. And if you don't, fine. But then the organization, management, must make appropriate changes. Corresponding appropriate changes. That's a whole nother video I could make. But in the end, Maple Leafs, they didn't get it done. Joseph Woll gave them the best chance. Jeremy Swayman was better. The scoring had to be there. It wasn't that, oh no, Radek Faksa isn't scoring. Oh no, Pontus Pia Suter isn't scoring. Oh no. It's John Tavares and Mitch Marner. Come on now. So as much as I have no ill will to the Maple Leafs, it's a fun meme. I'll admit it's a fun meme. As a Canadiens fan, I'm not a big fan of most Maple Leafs fans on the internet and all that. But I have many friends who are Maple Leafs fans. I wish in deepness of my heart, I wish no ill will against the Maple Leafs. I want them to do well. I would love to see them do something. As much as it would hurt me to say all the fans are blah, 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 I would like to see it for the sake of hockey, for the sake of a team that's gone through so much. But at the end of the day, here we are. So before I go off too far on that, let's move on to the New York Rangers. I know I hear you, Mighty Joe. Mighty Joe, maybe a franchise mode one of these days. I'll wrap it up in the next 15 here. So let's start finishing this off. Rangers sweep the Capitals. This is a quick one. One of the series that I predicted the games of. I haven't done that since the first one we looked at. Rangers and Capitals. As much as you want to root for Ovi, and I would have loved to see it. Nothing against the Rangers, just to say the great underdog story. The Capitals were by far the worst team coming into the postseason. They were 18, 19, and 4 on the road. The Rangers were scoring like 3/4 more of a goal per game. I felt like it was very obvious that the Rangers would take this series, especially consider the goaltending. Shesterkin, the Capitals did what they had to do. They tried their best. Shesterkin had to make saves. He was making miracles out there. He saved 5.8 goals above expected. Some of these games are close. 4-1, 4-3, 3-1, 4-2. Yes, it was a sweep, but no game by more than 3 goals. I don't think any game by more than 2 if we don't include the empty netters, right? These were close enough games. No 7-2s, no 6-1s. The Rangers never scored more than 4 goals. Granted, that was more than enough, but it's not like the Capitals just fell apart. They made it a good series. What am I trying to say here? They made it a good sweep. There are good sweeps and bad sweeps in my mind, and they made it a good sweep. As much as it hurts, it was a good sweep. Charlie Lindgren allowing 1.8 goals above expected, not as bad as you would think. Georgiev's in the same boat. He did better than Sorokin, did better than Hellebuck. Charlie Lindgren did what he could when he was dealing with what he had in front of him, right? He did what he could. The New York Rangers, when we look at their offense, it's high octane. What are you going to do? Zibanejad had 10 points in 5 games now. Sadly, we're including round 2. My apologies. I can't get stats of just round 1, I don't think. No, I don't think so. Unless I did no, I don't think I could do a time on it either. So apologies that I won't have that. But we know Trocheck, Zibanejad, those were the big guys. Razovic, Kreider, Lafreniere, they're doing what they have to do. Panarin, 3 goals. I don't think he had any in the last game, but just to say, it's your top guys, and it's a little bit of spread throughout the lineup as well. A little 3 points in 5 out of 4 games, a little bit of a Barclay Goodrow doing something for you when he was having a bit of a no, a bit. He wasn't having his best season. The Rangers did well, and they didn't have to do too much either. What scares me in the underlying numbers, maybe Capo Caco only getting 1 goal, but keep in mind he's playing only 11 and a half minutes per night. Maybe you want to see a little more offense from an Alex Wenberg playing 16, 18 per night. He had no points, was -1 now in 5 games. Maybe there are some underlying things to fix, absolutely, but I'm not too worried about the Rangers as a team. The Capitals did what they could, but it was very tough to get much going, especially with Alex Ovechkin. This was ugly. Ovi playing just over 19 and a half minutes per night. It was ugly for Ovi. It's unfortunate. For Hervey, he's your top scorer with Tom Wilson. You need your top guys, especially looking at ice time again. Looking at ice time, you need, if we look at the forwards, Dylan Strome, 2 points in 4 games, 1 goal. Ovechkin, no points in 4 games. Tom Wilson, okay, he did his job. Oshie, 1 assist in 4 games. McMichael, 1 goal in 4 games. How much could you have asked of this team? That's also true. Was Shesterkin also playing at his best? That's also true. So the Capitals made it a good series, but the Rangers, it was pretty obvious to me, and that's exactly what happened. The Rangers move on, and the Capitals, we'll see what happens with them, as they're really in the a tweener kind of team, not in terms of their growth, but in terms of a tweener in between. They're in between. Are we going to a rebuild, or can we still push a little bit more? I think they're in a bit of a better position organizationally than the Penguins. You think about Connor McMichael, Hendrix Lapierre, Rasmus Sandin, Ryan Leonard. They're in a better position than the Penguins organizationally. But in terms of, we have an old core that still wants to keep pushing, they're in that same boat. So we'll see what the Capitals do. When we move on to the last series now, the Hurricanes and the Islanders. I got this one right as well, which was nice. It was a 5-game series. The Islanders made it interesting as they had a lot of tight games here as well. 2-goal game, 3-1. 2-goal game, 3-2. 1-goal game, 3-2. Double overtime. They live to fight another day, 3-2. Then in the end, they lose 6-3 with a couple empty netters involved there. So the Islanders made it an interesting series. They had Semyon Varlamov trying to do what he could. Where's Varlamov? Here, saved 2.4 goals above expected. They gave a start to Sorokin, didn't work out. He allowed 2.4 goals above expected in the one start that he allowed, in the one start that he played. That he allowed 3 goals. I'm not sure which game that was again, but he allowed 3 goals, and that was 2.5 above expected. So it goes to show that Hurricanes sometimes weren't putting a lot of shots on net. The Islanders have a strong defense, but the goaltending wasn't always ideal. Varlamov did his job, but the Hurricanes are just that much stronger. If you sort by the points, you're looking at the Islanders team, 5 points in 5 games from Barzal. That was great. Nelson, Lee with 4 and 5. All right. Pulick, Bo, Palmieri, 3 and 5. Not the end of the world, but you start to see the 2s and the 1s from guys who are, again, eating a lot of minutes. Suzuka, 16 minutes. Pajot, almost 18 minutes. You got to get a little bit of offense, even though they're not offensive-minded players. Always, you gotta hope for a little bit. I love the depth here. Martin, Clutterbuck. I love the physicality that they bring. I love the physicality that this Islanders team continues to bring year in and year out. But in the end, they what's the word I could use? In the end, they made it interesting, kind of like the Capitals, right? The Hurricanes, we've started the next series here, so the numbers are going to be a little bit skewed, but you got Jarvis, you got Natchez, you got Svechnikov, Aho, Gensel, Shea, all around point per game territory, Teravainen, Kuznetsov. It was just too much bombardment, just like I had said of the Rangers and the Capitals. The Islanders made it interesting, much more interesting than the Capitals did, but at the end of the day, the Hurricanes just have the horses. If we look at the goaltending, Freddie Anderson wasn't any slouch either. The Islanders were getting shots on net. They were having some great performances. Freddie Anderson had an .899 save percentage. He was being tested. He saved a half a goal above expected, but the Islanders were finding a way to break through him. They just needed a little bit more. It's tough when you're trying to defend so often, though, against such a good Hurricanes team and one that allows so few shots against at the same time. So the Hurricanes, they continue to be a very strong team. I have full confidence in them moving forward to continue on the same type of pace. Warmaster says Colorado has been there before, so I think that gives them the advantage going against Dallas. That's true. And that gives them a little bit of an edge as well. So that brings it back to the bracket now. There's the few rounds that were the Islanders, the Capitals, the Lightning. They made the interesting series. Even the Maple Leafs. The East were some very interesting series. But I think the right teams went through. Hey, I'm 8 for 8 on the predictions. I'll give myself a little pat on the back there. And we move on to round number 2. So the predictions won't take as long. We've gone through all the numbers already. When it comes to the bracket, I might deviate a little bit. Dallas versus Colorado in the regular season, the numbers looked like this. Colorado, the higher offense, Dallas, the better defense. It's going to come down, I think, very much to Jake Ottinger. Not in the sense of Ottinger versus Georgiev, but in the sense of Ottinger versus the Avalanche's offense. Dallas, I think, will continue to score at this type of pace. Hopefully they can up it a little bit in a weaker goaltender, I think, in Alex Georgiev, as opposed to Thompson and Hill. But it's really going to come down to Ottinger because the offense in Colorado is very, very strong. I don't think you can take it lightly. I have a hard time choosing the Stars against this offense right now. 7 goals in 5 games, Nichushkin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 point per game plus players. I have a very hard time choosing the Stars when I see 8 point per game plus players. If Dallas can find a way to break through Georgiev consistently, Johnston continues, Robertson, Heiskanen, you get a little bit more from Dadonov, Ben, Sagan, Pavelski. Where's Pavelski down here? No points in 7 games. If you can get that, and in tandem with Ottinger shutting the door, Dallas has a chance. But I have a hard time choosing them, I got to be honest. As much as I would love to see Pavelski get a cup and Ben get a cup, all that, I have a hard time seeing them beat the Avalanche if they continue at that offensive pace. I don't think they will. I think it'll be harder to break through Ottinger than Hellebuck right now. But look what they did to a Vezina Trophy, probably the Vezina Trophy winner. So Ottinger has to be careful that he doesn't get melted, doesn't get shredded. And the Stars need to wake up a little bit offensively and keep doing what they're doing defensively. My pick is the Avalanche. I think, according to everything I've seen, I'm going to say Avalanche in 6. I lean more to 5 than 7. Avalanche in 6, and I lean more to 5 than 7. If the Stars would win, I would love it. I would love to be proven wrong because I would love to see Joe Pavelski and the Stars go on a run. But I think as of today, the Avalanche take it with that offense. Yes, Landon saying we just shut down Vegas, we as in Dallas. Yes. Is it possible for them to do it again against Colorado? Yes. But I'm not so sure it'll be the same type of circumstances. Vancouver and Edmonton, another interesting one here. Edmonton, another team with the offense, but less distributed, more top-heavy, while the Canucks need to see more, like Pavelski needs to see more. You need to see more from EP40. You need to see more from your Connor Garlands of the world. Minus the hat trick from Brock Besser, you had only 1 goal in 5 games. I'm not super impressed with this Canucks team through round 1. I'm not super impressed. So if Shilovs can continue, that gives them a chance. And as much as I want my cup choice to go all the way and continue, I think the Oilers take this series, not just by offense this time, but by offense and a little bit of, maybe not the word is defense, but a little bit of more stability and more trustworthiness maybe. Shilovs has the better numbers than Skinner, but will they be maintained? If they're maintained, Vancouver has a chance. And if Pettersson wakes up, and if Garland wakes up, and if Besser continues, Vancouver has a chance against Stuart Skinner. But Stuart Skinner is consistently just doing what he's doing, and the offense at Edmonton is doing what it's doing, and they will cruise to a 5 or 6 game series. I'm going to say Edmonton in 6. I'm going to go ahead and say Edmonton in 5. I lean more 5 than 6. So I'm going to say Edmonton in 5 for this series. I really want to be right and that Vancouver wins, but as of now, with the information given to me, I think it might be Edmonton in 5. Over in the Eastern Conference, Florida and Boston, I think Florida takes this one easy. The Bruins had a good season. They did not impress me. Of all the hockey I watched in round 1, the Leafs and Bruins were the series that I watched the most. Putting the regular season aside, looking at them on the ice before my very eyes, they don't look very good to me. They look tired, and maybe this puts a fire in them if someone in Boston's watching. But I don't see, especially with them not having rest a lot from the first round, I don't see them having even much of a chance against the Panthers. Jeremy Swayman will have to be their one and only miracle maker. David Pastrnak has to wake up, but even then, the offense in Florida is very strong. If the floodgates start to open up a little bit, they won't be able to find their way back. I say Florida in 5. I could see it Florida in 6, but I don't see it going to 7. Like if you were to tell me, okay, Edmonton 1 and 7, I would say, okay, I see that storyline. I could see it. But if you told me Boston in 7, I'd say, I don't think so. So I could see it going to 7 for Florida maybe in the craziest reality. But I think Florida's going to take this one in 5. All right, and the last series, the Rangers and the Hurricanes. Rangers already won game 1, so no surprise that I'm sticking with my prediction in the Rangers. I would have said Rangers anyways, so hopefully you believe me, but I would have said Rangers anyways. The Rangers and the Hurricanes, 2 teams that have good, steady, consistent offense. They both have that, but Shesterkin over Freddie right now is a part of the difference maker, on top of the fact that the Rangers, I just find they're so hungry. They're 30-11-0 in the regular season. Sorry, they were 30-11-0 in the regular season at home. They've won game 1 already. They looked very good in that game 1 as well. Does it show it was a 4-3 game. It was a tight game. I don't think it's going to be a runaway series, but I do think the Rangers take it in 7. I'm going to give the Hurricanes that respect. And I think the Rangers take it in 7. The Hurricanes are a good team. They battle hard. They have the defense to get those tight wins. But if it becomes a barn burner, or if it's or just like an all-out offense fest, whatever you want to call it, I trust Shesterkin more to shut the door. Okay, I've allowed 4 and no more. And we win 6-4, 7-4, as opposed to Anderson in that way, if the offense starts to come on both sides. So I think the Rangers take it in 7. I'm going to say, so Avalanche in 6, Oilers in 5, Panthers in 5, Rangers in 7. Those would be my round 2 predictions based on the numbers we've seen so far. That would keep everything the same aside from Edmonton up here. I still think it would be, at this point, I think it would be Colorado and Florida in the Stanley Cup final, but I'll keep my original prediction. You never know. Things can always keep changing, and that's why you make the bracket. Quick update on the bracket itself if you are curious before I wrap up this one. If you're curious about not the leaderboard. I need to look at, my leagues. Florida, Colorado would be a great Stanley Cup final. 2 of my favorite teams. Any team that Jose Theodore played for is one of my favorite teams. So in the bracket, hashtag all together is leading the way. I'm tied in second with a few other people with 89 points. 95 from hashtag all together. And at the bottom, we had 20 entries, I think. At the bottom, I think some people are done for with Winnipeg and all that. Unfortunate. But I'm still in there in the bracket competition. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. Leave a like if you enjoyed. We'll be back with more breakdowns, round 2 breakdown, round 2 predictions, all that coming your way as the postseason continues. Breaking news analysis, the real world of hockey, NHL and MLB franchise mode series, the Macklin Celebrini career sim coming soon. And tomorrow, live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live here for draft lottery coverage. It'll be a great time as we're going to see who gets the right to draft Macklin Celebrini at first overall. And after that, we'll have the Macklin Celebrini career simulation. So make sure that you are subscribed to not miss out on those. We'll be live. I'm going to push it. Instead of starting at 7, I'm going to say at 7:30. We'll start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern in just under an hour from now. Expos off season, Montreal Expos, Data 782, MLB The Show 24. Franchise mode series here on the channel. That'll be starting in just under an hour at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll see. Dexter wants that first overall pick. We'll see. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's stream. So we'll be live in just under an hour for Expos at 7:30. Thanks for joining me here. Leave your thoughts down in the comments. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I'll see you at least in the breakdowns at the end of round number 2. We'll see how those predictions go from now. Very excited for all of that. Thanks for being here. Have yourselves a lovely evening and start to the week. And I'll see you in just under an hour for Expos. I'll see you tomorrow for the draft lottery. I'll see you in 2 days for Celebrini. I'll see you in 3 days for our next NHL 24 stream on Thursday. All right. Talk soon, everybody. Thanks for being here.